Good morning. I'm so excited. This is the second annual Buddhist Awareness Week. And our objective with Buddhist Awareness Week is to make people aware of all the wonderful Buddhist resources we have here to learn about Buddhism and to practice mindfulness and meditation. So we actually came up with the name of Buddhist Awareness Week last year, and it seemed to be like a pretty good fit for what we were trying to accomplish. But over the last year, it sort of started to sound a little weird. Kind of like we're doing some religious profiling around here. Like we're going to find you if you're a Buddhist. And that I might be starting to hand out pamphlets like the 5 warning signs for if you might be Buddhist. You might be starting to have conversations with your friends like, hello, Nancy? Have you talked to Janet lately? Yeah, I know. I'm really concerned about her. I think she might be becoming a Buddhist. Yeah, I don't know what to do. Who do we call? Where do we go? So what are these labels that we put on ourselves of Buddhist or Christian or Muslim or Jewish? Several years ago, I was at a conference, and there was a group of people. We didn't know each other very well, but we were, talking about what interest we had. And one of the things I mentioned is that I'm very interested in Buddhism. And one of the women in this small circle, she was a regional actress, and she was quite lovely and very dramatic. And when I said these words, she kind of perked up, and she said, I'm a Buddhist. And in that split second, I thought about, oh my gosh, she's a Buddhist. I'm so excited. I thought about all the conversations we were going to be having, about all the books that we'd read and all the teachers we had talked about and all the retreats we had been on. And in that split second, I just knew that we were going to become best friends. And so I asked her, I said, what's your favorite Buddhist book? And she kind of looked at me with a little bit of puzzlement. And she says, well, I haven't actually read a book. I'm totally okay with that. Not everybody likes to read. There's lots of different ways to learn about Buddhism. I completely understand. Maybe there's a teacher that you've heard that really spoke to you. Who would that be? And now her look of puzzlement started to turn towards more irritation. And she said, well, no teacher. I just like the concept of Buddhism. It's just so rich and exotic, and it's just so cool. And in that moment, I realized that I had placed my own label on this woman about what I thought it was when she said that she was a Buddhist. Clearly, her definition and my definition were two completely different things. And I share this only to bring up this critical element that each of us has, which is we label things in our lives based on our own personal experiences. So if you hear the word Buddhism or Buddhist, most likely when you think of it in this moment, you're trying to recall any kind of experience you personally have had with someone or something or some experience. And so it's a very personal definition that you might be giving to whatever you think that it means to be a Buddhist. And so knowing that I was going to talk about that this morning, I decided to do a little experiment. And I went around and I actually started asking everybody that would listen to me, I asked them the question of, are you a Christian? If someone were to come up today and to ask you, are you a Christian, what would you say? Well, first, I started with my mom. And my mom, I have to use the Texas accent because we're from Texas. She says, well, Jan, of course I'm a Texan. Oh, she's a Texan too. Of course I'm a Christian. Those things might go hand in hand. She said, Jane, of course I'm a Christian. I believe in God and Jesus and heaven. And that's the silliest question you have ever asked me. And for my mom, being a Christian is a no-brainer. It gives her great comfort and courage in her life. And I can tell you that my mom is the most loving and kind person I know. And she gets up every day and she tries to truly live her life as Christ would have. And so to her, being a Christian is a wonderful gift that she has. No question. Now this week, some of the other people that I asked, are you a Christian? Actually seemed to be quite offended by me even asking the question. They didn't even want me to even suspect that they were a Christian. For some reason, some people in this world or in this country have gotten the idea through personal experiences that being a Christian is about being judgmental, about being inflexible, about being intolerant. And so for these people, if you were to go and ask them if they are a Christian, they would in fact be offended because they would never want you to think that that was anything about what they were like. And so some other people that I asked, particularly around here, when I asked them if they are a Christian, they said, well, kinda. And some other people said, well, partly. And some other people said, well, sort of. And so their experience of being a Christian is not about having to take on all the dogma that ever has been said about the Christian church, but to actually take those things that work for them and that feed their soul and to include those in their spiritual life. And I would like to think that the best of Unity Temple is that this place where diversity is praised and peace and harmony are the rewards is a result of each of us coming here and being willing to take those pieces of whatever religion or spirituality works for us, whatever feeds our soul. And maybe it's different for you versus you, or you, or you. But here we are sitting here in the same room, being spiritual and growing together, and still having our own voice. And so for me, that's what's most important about the message that Unity gives. And so within that context, I'd like to share with you a little bit about the basics of Buddhism. So Buddha was a guy that lived about 2,500 years ago in northern India, Nepal, somewhere in that area. And he had a very princely life, a life full of all the wonderful things that anyone would ever want. And yet, for some reason, he wasn't happy. And so he went on this lifelong journey to try to determine how to find happiness. And so initially, he studied yoga and felt like yoga was doing a great deal to increase his sense of happiness and his connection with other people. And then he tried something that was contemporary in his time called asceticism, which was where you gave up all your worldly possessions and anything that you might have, any of your relationships, and you went in the forest and you meditated and you prayed 24 hours a day. And he tried this. And after about 6 or 7 years, he says, this isn't working for me. There's got to be a middle way. And so for the Buddha, he went and found a way that for him, regardless of his external circumstances, enabled him to experience a happiness that was beyond his wildest imaginations. And so what the Buddha did was then make a very important decision. After having experienced this for himself, he made the decision to share it with others so that others might experience this happiness as well. And so the very first teaching that the Buddha did was the Four Noble Truths.